listening to Speaking with One Voice with Rodney Payne. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, topics you'd like discussed on the show, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email us at rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. That's rpayne@onevoiceinc.org. You can also search for us on Acast, Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. Just look for Speaking with One Voice. Now, here's your host, Rodney Payne.
Hello, and welcome to Speaking with One Voice. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. I am so excited for a brand new year with you here on Speaking with One Voice. Thank you for staying in the family. Thank you for staying connected. And thank you for allowing us to add value to you and or your team each and every week right here on Speaking with One Voice. I am so glad you are with us. I want you to make sure you do me a favor as we start out this year and we get ready for a great, great year. Please turn on your notifications. Follow us on our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne. And certainly take a look at us and subscribe on YouTube at Rodney R. Payne, where you'll get the latest content. And we're always adding value to you each and every day so you can get more than just the podcast. We want you in our ecosystem so that you can have a place to have value added to you and your leaders. So I thank you for being there for us. And we're going to get back into this thing this year. Had a great break and I'm ready to get back started. And I hope you are as well. I want you to get ready. Remember, we are still doing Live to Lead. You can reach out to us on any of our platforms at Rodney R. Payne, DM us, and we will get with you and bring Live to Lead, a John Maxwell event, to you and your team for a private event. Today, I want to talk about leadership transformation. We're going to go on a journey dealing with the foundations of leadership over the next few weeks. And I want you to really think about, how do I transform leadership when leadership has become such a buzzword? It's become such a cookie cutter approach, a one size fits all, 3 steps to this, 5 steps to this. This is something that fixes every leader. Well, I believe in your individual strengths. I believe in your power. I believe in you as a leader. You're the one that has the ability to transform your team. There are many, many tools and resources, and they all have their place, but nothing can replace a transformational leader. And my friend, I believe you are a transformational leader. So let's take a look at this. When we talk about leadership transformation, what we're really saying is leadership that transforms. It's going to take a fundamental shift in your mindset. So when you have a transformational leader, you're going to have a leader where things no longer stay the same. Now, things no longer staying the same doesn't mean we change for the sake of changing, but rather that we change to keep up with what's going on. We change to keep up with the shifts that are happening in our economy, in our business, in the way people communicate. So a transformational leader is one who leverages tools, who shifts mindsets, who shifts behaviors and practices things that make a difference in everyday leaders' lives. In other words, a transformational leader is one who is able to adapt to transformational times. So you have to be on top of your game in every area, realizing that your business, my friend, is not staying the same. Your business is going to continue to evolve. So when you think about transformational leadership, I want you to think about that first, in order for transformation to occur, you cannot be so caught up in your current practices that you don't identify the need for transformation. Leaders, they see farther, they see more quickly, they know more, and they show more. So what happens with leaders is they understand that while our present model may be experiencing some measure of success, it is certainly not the level of leadership which we need to be at to reach that next level. Research shows that 70% of transformations fail due to lack of buy-in or ineffective leadership or even poor communication. That's from the Harvard Business Review. That tells us that transformation is more than just change. It has to be someone who understands that there is a need for transformation and that you have to be able to not just see it, but you must also be able to articulate it and be able to communicate the fact that we must be growing in every aspect of our business, not just in what the customers see or what the client sees, but even on the back end. So when you look at buy-in, that is a team concept. It's culture driven and it's also information driven. You have to learn how to communicate what you see effectively. That's where your leadership comes in. So when we look at this thing called communication, I like to define it differently. I don't call it an exchange of information, but rather I call it an interchange of information. I am relying on those that I lead to communicate not just in response to what I say, but to proactively communicate from their experience. See, what I want is I want a team that's interconnected and extended, not replicated. I don't want the same team and everyone doing the same thing. Behaviors, habits, SOPs, I understand that's part of our business. But when it comes to the creativity of our business, we have to have leaders who are proactively recognizing that we have a need for transformation. We have a need to grow, and that starts with a two-way communication or an interchange of information that helps us not only to get the message out, but also to benefit from and leverage the insights of the entire team. Understand that the reason everybody's on your team is because they're necessary, not because you need a clone or you need a twin. You don't need everyone to think exactly like you or to operate exactly like you. When we think about character, integrity, those types of things, we want some consistency there. When it comes to thinking, strengths, keys of operation, we want some diversity there, and we want to extend ourselves, not replicate ourselves. We're talking about transformational leadership, and we understand that we want leaders that are evolving according to our business needs. Also, I want to look at the impact of ineffective leadership. I did an entire episode on this, but I wanted to come back to you and just talk about this for just a moment because approximately 75% of employees on average report dissatisfaction with their managers or their leaders, resulting in decreased productivity and higher turnover. That's why I want to talk about this. Transformational leadership is often hindered because of the amount of turnover we experience in an organization. I just provided you some statistical data from Gallup, and I want you to understand that the key here is that when we have a team that stays and we are able to mitigate and reduce turnover, what we do is we increase the culture and we increase our retention. Anytime we can increase our retention, we are reducing the addition of newer employees. Why does this matter? Well, when we have new employees, we have to invest in the acquisition of the talent. We have to invest in the onboarding of the talent. Then we have to invest in the development or the assimilation of the talent before we can get a return on the talent. Whereas if we retain our top talent, they already understand our culture. They're culture builders. They understand our processes. They're already paying ROI. They're covering their cost and bringing value and increase to the bottom line. So these things help us when we understand that transformational leadership is so much more than a witty idea. It's so much more than just a new thought. Transformational leadership, my friends, is going to look at the entire process and make sure that our team, our business, is evolving as our business is evolving. We are on pace. We are setting the course. We are making sure that we are communicating and we see a need for transformation. And we want to avoid ineffective leadership and put things in place that help us with retention along the way. Listen, you're listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. So glad to be with you again and back in the studio for this year's episodes of our podcast. I want you to check us out on all of our social media platforms at Rodney R. Payne. Make sure you subscribe on our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne and get this content. Share it within your team. Use it as a source for your regular team meetings. Use it for a source to grow your own leadership lid. But whatever you do, you keep coming back. And if you think that we can help you in some kind of way, let's sit down and talk about it. I'd love to learn more about you and your business. As we're talking about transformational leadership today, we want to talk about something that we miss. See, sometimes we treat leadership principles and leadership growth as a nice add-on, as if we have a sundae and we have the whipped cream and we have the nuts, but we want to put that cherry on top. So we act like leadership is just the cherry, when the fact of the matter is, leadership, my friends, is essential. You have to understand, when we have poor leadership, it creates a challenge for us. You can't have transformational leadership when your leadership is not good leadership. So let's talk about that. What happens when when our leadership is not good enough? What happens when our leadership is not on par? What happens when our leadership fails? That becomes a very big challenge for us to consider. That what happens when our leadership fails, if you will, is that the ultimate outcome is, in the worst case scenario, and I don't want to be over dramatic here, but in the worst case scenario, it becomes a failed company. So there are many things in history, many brands in history. A couple that you might remember. We've talked about the Blockbuster story ad nauseum, so you know how they fail because of ineffective leadership and vision. What about Kodak? Do you remember Kodak? They fail because their leadership was stagnant and they were resistant to change. Leadership must transform, my friends. Leadership has to grow. Now, I understand that you've worked a long time to build a business. Perhaps you have a brand that you've taken over or inherited from a family member, or perhaps you've just been there a long time. And we hang our hat on the fact that this is what we did to get where we are, and so this will be good enough. And listen, while it was great when you did it and it was good for the time, the problem is there's not a stagnation in our time. Our times are ever evolving and ever moving. And so leadership must transform. You must transform. I want to just be transparent for a moment. Technology is not my favorite thing. It's a great resource and a great tool, but if left to me and my own devices, I would rather someone else do all the technology, whether it's a social media manager, whether it's a camera crew, whether it's a producer for a podcast, whether it's a graphic design, whatever it may be, whether it's the CRM that you choose to use and how you communicate. I personally, and I'm just being transparent with you, and maybe I have someone who can relate with me. Matter of fact, if you're listening, and you can just take a note and write relate. Every one of those things is necessary. We're talking about from accountants, CPAs to whatever we may need from a financial money manager. You go across these things, they're all technology driven. There's a login for this. There's an app for this. There's an automation for this, and of course, yes, there is AI for this. I'm old school. And so I really don't want to do any of those things, my friend. What I want to do is to create good content. I want to make sure you have great resources, and I want to deliver those to you. And so really I just want to deal with what transforms a leader from an interpersonal perspective, from a communicator's perspective, from an author's perspective, from a podcast host perspective. I don't want to set anything up. I don't want any of those things. But listen, if you're going to be in business and you're going to grow, you're going to have to transform. Listen, AI cannot replace us, but there are so many things that your competition is leveraging AI for, not transforming and depending on AI, and not getting out of the business space themselves, not letting AI think for them in that regard, and not letting AI create and produce stuff that you as a person or individual can't deliver upon. I'm not suggesting that. But what I'm suggesting is, if you're going to be a successful leader, my friend, you are going to have to transform and evolve. And technology, that I never thought would be, is a part of my everyday business. Can I be honest with you? I still have a calendar. Shh, don't tell anybody. I have a calendar that you actually write on. And I don't use it to tell me where to go daily. I use it for the visual effect and being able to see everything in one place at one time, because that's how I like to see things. But technology is, my phone will let me know when my next appointment is. I won't miss anything. Technology is, all of my clients have digital files. As I print stuff out, I got to admit it, but I have a file vault that segregates things so that I know where I was and what I did. I know where I spoke last and when I've used the content. I use technology every day. So you have to transform as a leader. Technology may not be your challenge. Your challenge might be interpersonal communication. You may want to overuse technology so that you no longer develop relationships. Understand the art of developing relationships is as old as time, but it's still a skill that transformational leaders not only possess, they actually master it. So you want to understand the importance of building relationships, the importance of overcoming and addressing change head on. Why? Because brands that struggle with change, leaders that struggle with change, those individuals and entities that will not change will not survive. You have to be willing to change. Now, wholesale change is often unnecessary and reckless. But the fact that you're going to look at what you're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, you want to make sure that you are willing to change the organization. No one wants a status quo organization. A buzzword today is called scalability. Businesses want to scale. Entrepreneurs want to scale. Everyone wants to grow their business. How do you grow your business in such a competitive environment? How you grow your business in a competitive environment is by your leadership. You set yourself apart, not just by you as a leader being a transformational leader, but by you as a leader leading a transformational leadership team that transforms the entire organization. My friends, I want you to understand it is so important that you don't get caught up in the stagnation of stubbornness. Oh my goodness. Don't get caught up in the stagnation of stubbornness. Don't just keep doing it the way you've always done it because that's the way you've always done it. My friends, it's time for a change, not for change's sake, but to transform. Whew. You're listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, Coach Rodney Payne. We are talking about transformational leadership. I want you to go ahead and make sure that you share this, turn on your notifications where you're receiving it, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Rodney R. Payne. So let's talk about, as we're talking about transformational leadership, I want to talk about that there must be a willingness from a leader to transform. There must be a willingness. When you think about companies that experience great change and continually grow, you think about the Apples of the world, the Microsoft of the world. And even going back to the old days, you remember IBM was able to successfully alter their leadership approach. Many people and many organizations on scale have had to do this thing called transition or transform. And that becomes the space for renewing their growth and a space for innovation. My friends, we don't talk about innovation nearly enough, but innovation is going to be one of the things that keeps you at the forefront of your business. But innovation is always fueled by liberty to create. Transformational leaders are not afraid of creating. They're not afraid of creatives on their team. There are some people who are visionaries and they can see it. There are others who can strategize and lay it out. There are others who can motivate people to go and get it done. There are others who can see it and build it. And so we need all types on our leadership team if we're going to have or be a transformational leader. I can tell you that what you want to be around are leaders who are willing to grow. You need steady leaders. You need stable leaders, but you can't have leaders who are afraid to grow. There has to be a way. Who would have thought that you would get on your mobile device, your cell phone, if you will, and that you would be able to go to an app and order your food from one place, order some groceries from another place, and order some other things from another place, and have one person pick all of those things up and deliver them to your door. Who would have thought? Who would have thought you could do all of your grocery shopping at the click of a button and then tell them you'll be there at 2:30 to pick it up, drive in, pop your trunk, they dump your groceries in, they dump your order in, closure, and you drive off. These things are so common now. I know people who never leave their house to go to the store. They would never do that. I know people who decide they need something, they go to their own delivery site, they click on it, and it'll be there in 2 hours at your door or at a locker. These things came from transformational leadership and people being willing to change. I remember that it's commonplace now, but I remember when credit cards were changing and they were putting a chip in the credit card and using RFID, and you could touch the card, and people thought that was just so we can't do that, and it began to be adopted around the world before it was adopted in the U.S. And now you can just take your phone and just tap to pay when you get your gas or at the grocery store or making your purchase. All of these things come from innovation. All of these things come from innovation. What's the next major change in your organization? Where will it come from? Will you recognize it? Will you be willing to adopt it in your business model? Are you willing to grow? Are you willing to be a transformational leader? Let me tell you this. I believe you can be. I believe you will be. As a matter of fact, I believe you are right now. I want you to own this process of growth, and let's not get caught in the stubbornness of stagnation. And let's build scalable businesses with scalable teams with people who are irreplaceable because of what they are able to do from a relational perspective, from a creative perspective, and not abandoning or avoiding tools, but rather leaning into and leveraging technology tools to help us to grow as a business. Listen, my friends, you are a transformational leader, and I believe in you. You have been listening to Speaking with One Voice with your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Thank you for being in the room. Now, listen, be sure to take advantage of our Live to Lead special. This is a deadline. There's a timeline there, but we have a Live to Lead opportunity where we can bring speakers to you directly: John Maxwell, Craig Groeschel, Jesse Cole, among others, Valerie Burton. There are so many speakers that we can bring to you, and we can do individual content at a private event for your leadership team. It's one way to get the few to the masses, and we can leverage that opportunity for you to be transformational and grow your leadership lid. These are some of the most well-known and creative thought leaders who are going to help us to grow in very specific areas. We also do plans that are just for you and your organization. So we'll tailor the content and really go shopping for what you like best. Do it a la carte, put it together to get a unified vision to come to life in your business. All you have to do is reach out to us at Rodney R. Payne. Certainly can visit rodneyrpayne.com, and we would love to help you grow you and or your leadership team. As always, it's my pleasure to be with you. I'm excited for a strong year. Let's dig in. Let's be committed. Let's become transformational leaders. That's what I want from you for this year. Listen, as always, my pleasure to be in the room with you. I am your host, the coach, Rodney Payne. Until next time, my friends, let's keep growing together.
You've been listening to Speaking with One Voice. Please remember to follow Rodney Payne on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Rodney R. Payne. We'd love to hear from you and get your feedback, so please feel free to leave us comments. And if you would, rate and subscribe to the podcast, we'd appreciate that as well. Don't forget to set up for notifications so you can get the latest updates and social media posts and get new podcasts when they're released. As always, use the hashtag Speaking with One Voice or simply SWOV on any of your social media posts. On behalf of Rodney Payne, thanks